Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be again here um, with you. And so we will ask you, because in these times of pandemic and physical distancing, we are actually considering the social distancing a misnomer. So we would like to invite you guys to really show your faces and so you will be on the panel. So the way you can do it is by clicking at the bottom uh, to raise your hand. And when you raise your hand, then you will be added to the panel. And then we can see you and support each other with gestures and smiles and or showing and showing your pets. I Dr. Jończyk had to remind me that I get distracted whenever I see a pet on the screen at the beginning of those webinars. I would lose my train of thoughts. I would get so happy. Oh, kitten! Oh, doggy! So, but please share your animals too with us. So don't worry about that. Being on the panel has several benefits because it is easier for you to ask questions. Also, after that, we like stay for 10-15 minutes after the webinar. What is also, but it's also, we are recording all the sessions. So, oh, sorry, I see a doggy. and And so when you're in the panel, we are recording, so your face will be recorded too. So if you don't want to be recorded, don't get on the panel. But we like the face, so everyone's face is hello. Oh wow, my good friends are showing up, um, and really big experts. Moritz, thank you very much for joining us. Uh, Uh, so, um, so today we have a special really event because we have my very good friend Maciej Skibinski. He is a psychologist, and some of you could see us on Facebook. You could see him hugging Dr. Carl Simonton. Dr. Carl Simonton was the radiation oncologist who really developed a program that we are continuing for patients with cancer and their families, how to address the emotional issues of dealing with cancer. And we believe that these are skills that are valuable to everyone under stress, and particularly at the times of pandemic. So we usually call it that, yes, we are mental health professionals, but we specialize in average person in non-average situations. So common people in uncommon situations is the pandemic and the lockdowns and so on created some unusual uncommon situations for which we may need to use more skills. So uh, so that is and Dr. Andrew Jończyk is a physician who really took over the technical aspects of these webinars. I think that I underestimated the amount of interest it might have created, and my first webinar was crashed. Over 200 people tried to join, and Zoom was allowing only 100, and I couldn't manage all the chats and everything. And one person whose face you don't see is Aleksandra Marcinkowska, a PhD student from the UK, who actually was just traveling and had Wi-Fi problems. We may hear her later on if she's able to join us. So
I wanted to thank you. I know it's a long weekend in the US, so thank you, Mariusz, for taking your weekend time, and of every one of you who just joined. It is 2 hours, so we know it's quite some time.
So yes, so we wish you all the best for this long weekend. This is tomorrow's Memorial Day, so it is also a somber reminder for Americans in particular. So we particularly appreciate your taking time off, and we know that you have a lot of other things to do. So spending time with us is a huge privilege.
It is also
So,
a banking holiday in the UK, so
oh, we didn't know.
day off in both countries, right? We have people from the UK. I see Katarzyna.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. So we welcome everyone from all parts of the world. So thank you. All right. So without further ado, I wanted to give voice to Dr. Skibinski, uh, who is going to give a lecture on perfectionism versus feelings of inferiority versus USA, and you will learn what USA is. Um, and at the same time, he is going to be dealing with his own feelings of perfectionism and inferiority
Of course.
because he does because he doesn't lecture in English a lot. So yeah, and um, so we are turning to Andrew. You had some questions before we turn to.
Yes, so we wanted to thank you for all coming. We just wanted to ask you a quick question about how many times have you already been with us. So let me just, without further ado, launch the poll. And if you can just answer, we're curious, how are we doing, and how many of you are here with us for the first time? Oh.
And yes, today, I don't know how many. I don't know if people know how many we already had.
Oh, it should be 4 to 9.
So we have, today is the 10th. Today is the 10th. So that is our round number. We don't think that there's anything in particular number like number, but for some people like round numbers. That is another round number. So thank you very much for being with us, and Dr. Joinchik, we call him AJ, will share with us shortly.
Okay, so show results. Sorry, do you see the results?
Oh yes. Wow. So we have 7%, all of them. 33 are, majority of them. Wow. So that is, and we have newcomers, 21%. That is great. So thank you very much, Maciek. Maciek is Dr. Skibinski name. You are a draw. So thank you for expanding our visibility, and also we invite you to join our Facebook page, Facebook group, where people can ask questions, and it's much easier. And Dr. and AJ just shared it with us in chat, the link to that website page. So Maciej, please let's get to your presentation then.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. If I was perfect, I should feel grateful for opportunity to step outside my comfort zone. But now I'm a little bit anxious, not grateful. Maybe I'll be grateful when I finish this lecture. Usually I don't give lectures in English, so I'm not sure how will I do. If I mess up anything, please blame Mariusz, not me, because trusting me was his fault. My imperfect English is, I hope it will be good enough, but let's just try and let's begin. Maybe some sentences about me and my work. I've been working with people with cancer for about 20 years. I met Carl Simonton twice, and it was great joy to learn from him and to make friends with him. But several years ago, I noticed that Mariusz said about average people in non-average circumstances. I noticed that not only average people get cancer, and not only average people need help to cope and to deal with cancer. And I noticed that sometimes the methods for average people in not average situation are not enough to effectively help them. So I started my training in cognitive behavioral therapy, and several years ago I started to work with people with some mental issues, and my specialty is working with people with anxiety issues and personality disorders. And all of this about perfectionism, feeling inferior, and about self-worth is inspired by schema therapy, but I will not use terminology from schema therapy. I tried to translate those terms into everyday and every person language. So let's start. May I ask you for the first slide from the presentation?
Or maybe we'll do the first poll about perfectionism and inferiority.
Okay,
How about
let's do it. Let's do it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so another poll is coming.
And we apologize that we may sometimes talk over each other, but we have different ideas sometimes.
So we have two questions. The first question is, do you think you have characteristics of a perfectionist? The second question is, do you have more often than you would like to feelings of inferiority? And we have answers coming in. Maybe a couple more seconds because people are still answering. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Here are the results.
That is interesting that we have exactly the same number of perfectionism and inferiority in this poll. And maybe, can you keep this screenshot from that so we will compare?
Yeah, I just saved the screenshot.
Okay, perfect.
So can you comment on this, Maciek, maybe?
I think it's very significant. It's not, in my opinion, it's not common knowledge how a strategy of perfectionism is connected with feeling inferior. This is the topic of today's lecture, but those percentages, I think, they show that there is any connection, and I'll try to tell you what are the mechanisms between between perfectionism and feeling inferior. In my opinion, they are in some way connected, and I'll try to prove it today. And of course, the last part of the lecture will be about a topic how to cope with perfectionism and how to cope with feeling inferior. So probably most of perfectionists think that if they are perfect, they deserve to be accepted and self-accepted. But when you're a perfectionist, it's really hard to be really perfect. You try very hard to be perfect, but it's almost never it. It's almost always thinking, I could do more, it's not enough. Once one woman attended therapy. We just met several times. She was feeling inferior, but she was the champion of the world. I won't tell what kind of sports it was because there is confidentiality in therapy, but she really had proof that she is the best in the world, or she was the best in the world 2 years before we met. But despite this proof, she didn't feel self-accepted. It just wasn't enough to be the best in the world. So perfectionism does not give people self-acceptance. It's illusion that I earn the right to accept myself, or I earn the right to be accepted if I am perfect. So the second slide, please. This is the definition of perfectionism. I think that everyone can read it, and it's no point that I read it aloud. But the core of perfectionism is expecting perfection from myself. It's not easy to be perfectionist, not to expect perfection from myself, but sometimes people expect perfection from other people, and sometimes they think that other people expect perfection from them. So the most common is expecting perfection from ourselves, but sometimes we involve other people. But what is most important in perfectionism is trying to be flawless, is trying not to make mistake. But perfectionism collides with learning process because it's very difficult to learn anything not making mistakes. So I'll explain it later. So next slide, please. There is something healthy between unhealthy perfectionism and between Mariusz, how to say that, że ktoś sobie pobłaża?
Giving yourself a break. Giving yourself a break.
Some people give themselves a break and they don't develop, they avoid activity. Some people are unhealthy, are trying to be unhealthy perfect, but it's not like this, that if you give up the perfectionism, you are giving yourself a break. There is healthy self-growth and healthy motivating oneself. And the difference are on the slide. Perfectionists try to be perfect, and if you are healthy motivated, you are just expecting to be good enough. For example, I know that my English is not perfect and probably you hear it, but I hope that it's good enough. And if it's not good enough, I ask Mariusz for help. And I hope that all this lecture will be good enough for you to understand. Next difference, perfectionists perceive themselves in terms of all or nothing. If I'm 100% effective, it's a success. But if I'm 99% effective or less, it's complete failure. But if you are healthy motivated, you just the result is just a feedback. You think if it was good enough or not. If it's good enough, maybe next time it could be even better. But it wasn't good enough. I can plan what to change to to achieve good enough performance. Next difference is about a lack of desired result. For a perfectionist, it's complete failure. Usually perfectionists think about themselves that they are losers, they are complete failures. And healthy, motivated people think, is it just worth chasing it? Maybe it's not worth. Or what can I change in my actions? Well, what should I know better? What should I learn to achieve this goal? And the last difference, perfectionists, their self-worth is dependent on achievements. If they achieve what they want, they feel self-worthy, but if they don't achieve, they feel helpless, failure, loser, and so on. And in the healthy motivation, you separate the judgment of yourself as a human being from the judgment of your action. Maybe your actions were effective or not effective. Maybe they were morally good or not, but it doesn't affect your self-acceptance. So it's not like this, that if you suffer from perfectionism and you give up the strategy, you are just give up yourself. What was this word?
No, give yourself a break.
Yeah, you are not just giving yourself a break. You can healthy motivate yourself to be good enough. Next slide, please. And self-worth considers opinion about myself, judgments about myself, and what value or we ascribe to ourselves as a human beings. And next one, please. And some words about about etiology. Did I pronounce it good
Yes,
enough?
very good enough.
Okay. Mm,
So,
when we
just to
okay,
say, when
Mariusz.
you're asking me, I'm a Polish person. For me, your accent is absolutely fantastic. But I don't know if I'm not the right person to ask.
Okay,
So.
but you've been working in the USA for about almost 30 years, as far as I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But it
speak
didn't help. It
English
didn't help much. It didn't help much. So,
several times a month.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. People are saying you are doing great. I understand everything. Thank you. So people,
Thank
not
you.
just me saying that you are doing great. So thank you.
Okay. Okay. We try to be perfect when deeply in the core of our self we feel inferior. We try to prove that we can be accepted. So we start feel inferior when we are criticized, and it's easy to understand. If our parents or other significant persons are criticizing us, uh, we just, like it's recorded like on the hard disk, and we play those what these people say sometimes. And usually I ask my patients when they are criticizing themselves, whose voice is it? Is it your voice or anything else's? And people who are criticized usually say, okay, it's my father's voice, or it's my parents' voices. But some parents are not openly criticizing children. They just compare, and they say something like, your friend got the best mark in the school. It's A in USA, as far as I remember.
Yeah, the best grades. They're comparing a child. So even not even comparing, but just giving another child as an example. Oh, look, Johnny got an A on the test, right? We don't even have to say make any comparison. The kid is going to make the comparison in their head anyway.
Mm-hmm. And people who are compared or are given examples of other children who are better performing, they start to think that there are better and worse people, and those worse ones are not liked. They don't deserve to be liked. And of course, I'm the worst one because this Eddie or Johnny is performing better than me. So he is good. I'm the worst, and I should feel bad to become better. Feeling we are deceiving ourselves that feeling inferior motivates us to perform better in the future. And only inferior people make stupid mistakes. And of course, those people who are given as a good example are not making mistakes in our opinion because our parents don't tell us that, okay, this Johnny got a grade in the school, but he runs slower than me.
Yeah. So that is a very important point that Maciej is making, that that is where the problem starts for most of us. We I think most of us experienced that. You see, this is how we learn. So the process is, and that is the emphasis of cognitive behavioral therapies, but particularly rational behavioral therapy, the one that we practice, and Simon Tungan therapy, is that our emotional issues are mostly learned. Uh, and that is, and most very often they are learned in very early age, and we develop this really deeply ingrained processes that we never question because they are like our habits. We are not aware of having them. Like when you drive, um, even though you learned the driving consciously, you did it on purpose, but you can drive on automatic without any much of the conscious thinking, and you can drive safely. And so many of our habits are like that. But here we acquired this habit of inferiority, and then proving ourselves that we are actually better unwittingly, just absorbed it like we absorb language. Um, our mother tongue, like you can see, and you can hear, it is not, English is not my mother tongue. And so here is children are always pointed out when they make mistakes, because we parents obviously don't want their children to make mistakes, and some of the things that children want to do are very dangerous, so they are being stopped. Oh, stop, yeah, don't do it. And at the same time, the child observes that the people around the child are older usually, and they are not making all those mistakes. And they are not aware, as Maciej already mentioned, of other people making mistakes. So they are assuming, oh, I'm the only one that makes all those mistakes. So in order for me to be just as good as everybody else, I have to make zero mistakes. Therefore, my performance has to be ideal, perfect. And being perfect makes me just as good as other people, right? So, and and and
But
what is
being
human?
perfect is not possible.
Yeah, because
So
of what? We are
I have
human.
no chance to be as good as anyone else.
Yeah, assuming that everybody else is perfect, so makes zero mistakes. So, but we never question these assumptions. They are so deeply ingrained, and actually, when I started teaching cognitive behavioral therapy back in Poland in 1990, which was possibly, I was one of the very first teachers of cognitive behavioral therapy, together with Maxim Oldsby, in 1992, actually. And so it was interesting because on one slide during the whole 3-day workshop, we had on one slide just one sentence about feelings of inferiority. And then it became to one slide, and then it became a 2-hour session because the therapists that were learning cognitive behavioral therapy wanted to know that because of what it was so deeply affecting them too. So it affects me. It was very close to me, and all those things. So I have a very personal relationship with it. And Maxim Mosby had really, one of our mentors, had a really great statement. He would say, the feelings of inferiority is a misnomer because of what? Even in the Constitution, American Constitution, that says that everybody is equal. Of course, we know that in practice it is differently. But so feelings of inferiority and the definition is from Maxim Mosby on this slide number 5, that it is we do it to ourselves, but we are not aware how we do it because it is so deeply ingrained. Make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry,
It
Martin,
was
that I
perfect.
jumped in, but
Okay, next click, please. So please write in the comments
in chat, in chat.
in the chat what are benefits of self-criticism, and what of your values does it prove? Being self-critical probably is connected with your values, so write it down. What are the benefits and values? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I will be reading what's popping up. Keeps you on your toes and helps you work more efficiently. And helps you work hard. There's an effort to keep ourselves safe. Whoop. I lost.
Healthy humility.
Self
Gives us
acceptance of
opportunity to
imperfection.
improve.
Mm-hmm.
I can be reflective. Oh, make you
Oh,
improve.
Maxim Mosby said, "You can never be anything more or anything less than a fallible human being." Thank you, Mitch, for quoting our mentor here. Oh, I can modify my goals. Pardon?
Being aware of our weak points. Self-assessment can lead to growth.
Noticing our own mistakes, reflectiveness, being aware of our weak points. Where your mind goes, energy flows. So if I self-evaluate, I can decide which direction to go.
Mm-hmm.
And let me read the last one. Self-criticism helps us be aware of opportunities to improve behavior and tasks if we are willing to learn and grow. Like Edison, 99 ways of the experiments to create the light bulb are not the right way. Okay, there is a pony in here somewhere. Thanks for opportunity to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that your comments in the chat show that perfectionism is embedded in our culture. That's it's so the expectations of being perfect, or expectations that you have to be perfect to succeed, to achieve anything in life, it's so common that it's not easy to imagine and think that there are other ways of motivating ourselves for healthy growth and healthy development. But I'll try to show you that there are other ways, because perfectionism is embedded in our culture, but it has also some drawbacks. And now please the next click in the presentation. Next click. Okay, when you self-criticize, you're paralyzed and you are not well-being. Try to imagine a little child who breaks something, and the angry parent is shouting, motivating this little child to clean the mess, but is it easy for this child to clean it and to be effective in this cleaning? They usually make more mess than before because they are paralyzed. So next one. Self-criticism hurts, and when you criticize yourself, it's one of the most painful feelings you can have. And next one. It blocks the process of learning. It's not effective way to learn to to criticize yourself. There are more effective ways to learn new habits. Next one. And self-criticism ignores reality because we are not only making mistakes, we also make some quite successful and nice things. And when we self-criticize, we just don't see it. We cut it out from our reality. So there are some benefits you wrote about. There are some drawbacks, and let's try to think how to cope with perfectionism and self-criticism. But before this, I want to show you next slide about mechanisms between feeling inferior and strategy of perfectionism, and some areas of life that inferiority affects. The common thing in all those topics is something like people who feel inferior usually think that they don't deserve. They don't deserve satisfactory relationships with people. They don't deserve to spend free time playing or doing something pleasant or something. They don't deserve, for example, to rest. They don't deserve to earn more money. They don't deserve to take care of themselves. And so on. Next slide, please. Click. Okay, in the field of core beliefs, people who feel inferior think that they are worse than other people. Click. When they comply to those thoughts, they feel very bad. Usually, people feel depressed when they are actively thinking that they are worse, they are failures, and so on. So compliance to those beliefs creates a lot of emotional pain. It's difficult to cope with this pain. So people try to do anything to get some relief. And they can create, for example, strategy of avoiding. So, thank you. People try to avoid situations in which they are judged or compared to others, or situations in which they are competing with others. So, for example, someone feeling inferior and thinking that is worse can can think, oh, tomorrow I'm having the exam for the driving license, but I'm so bad that probably I won't pass it. So I'm not going. I just try to spare my my pain, and I don't go there. And when people are avoiding those situations, contemporarily, they feel better, they feel relieved. But from time to time, people are thinking about their lives, about their past, and they notice that there are some opportunities they missed. And next click, please. Next one. And avoidance confirms those core beliefs, because people feel temporarily relief, but on the long term, the feeling of the beliefs that they are worse are confirmed. So avoidance does not solve this problem. The next strategy is being perfect. Usually people think that they have to, or they should be the best, the richest, the most efficient, perfect, the most beautiful, the most kind and nice, or that they should help all the people, and so on. And usually concentration on being perfect takes a lot of energy. People are setting very high standards. So there are three types of, next click, please. Okay, thank you. This strategy is also called overcompensation. And when you set so high standards to yourself, you need a lot of energy, effort, and time trying to achieve those standards. But there are three possible variants of trying to be perfect. One is that the standards are so high and unachievable that you are trying very hard to to achieve those standards, but you are not successful. And you feel inferior, you think that you are worse, but at least you are trying. So it maybe it's a little relief. The second variant is that people contemporarily can achieve their very high standards, but they get exhausted and they cannot sustain it for longer. So they achieve those standards, but then they stop, they fall out. So during when they are effective, they feel better, they feel conditionally accepted, and they conditionally self-accept. But in the core, they are thinking that they are worse, and it's only the mask that they are hiding their inferiority. And even if they succeed, even if they, if people like what they did, they think, okay, they didn't catch me. It wasn't revealed yet. And the third variant of perfectionism is that people are achieving very high standards in one field of life, but they function on the lower levels in the other fields of life. Usually uh, it's their profession or school achievements for students. They are really the best or one of the best in the work or in the school, but for example, their family life is ruined because they invest so much energy and effort in the in the work or school that they have no energy to care for their family. So
Yeah,
those are
and let me just add something here because this is important. We were talking about these feelings of inferiority also interfere with us honestly communicating with other people. Um, so that is the reason that perfectionists, it is easier for us to really succeed at work than in relationships, because relationships are much harder and the rules are not as clear and so on. So 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 people overcompensate by putting much more effort in their work achievements, and they use this also as an excuse for maybe not paying attention to their families or friendships or other important relationships. And also there is a trick in the relationships with feelings of inferiority, is that because we think that everybody else is really better than us, right? We are ashamed of our inferiority, so we are trying to hide it. Right? So we are not honestly communicating these feelings, and that is the reason many people don't know that other people also feel that way. So, and from that, so that because we are ashamed of feeling inferior, we are not talking about it. And if sometimes we say something about it to someone, people usually around us don't think that we are inferior, right? And so they tell us, oh, no, you're fantastic, you're doing great. But then it only proves to you, not that you're like everybody else, but it only proves to you that you fooled them, that you are so good at hiding your inferiority that, oh, they didn't realize how inferior you are. And so there are layers of this viciousness of the circle that starts really, with us comparing ourselves to others. And comparison is a thief of all joy, as Roosevelt said. Sorry for jumping in, but
you're welcome, and I'd like to add that sometimes when we are appreciated, we don't believe those people who appreciate us, and we think that it's out of pity. Dobrze odpowiedziałem, że to z litości?
yes, it's out of pity that people
that we
pity
are
us, and they.
that we are so inferior that people try to make us feel better, saying such nice things, but it's not true.
Yeah. So yeah, so we don't respond to praise well when we are driven by feelings of inferiority. So really, nothing can prove to us that we are not inferior. So there's nobody from the outside that can do that. Yeah. So, and magic will bring this to the, only us can solve it for ourselves. It was Roosevelt who said, the comparison is a thief of all joy. I'm sorry, people are asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next slide, please. And now think about how feeling inferior can affect those areas listed on the slide, and choose one of them and write it down in the chat, and let's discuss what you write.
Can you maybe reiterate the tasks?
Okay, choose one one of the area of life, and think how unhealthy perfectionism affects this area, and write it down in the chat, and we'll discuss it.
Thank you.
So how does it affect your beliefs about yourself, your own behaviors, your emotional feelings, work, school, relationship, free time?
Makes 10 or worse. I tried for years to get the perfect blood sugar, but not feeling lost.
Mm-hmm.
I avoid taking action by convincing myself I'm not ready. I don't deserve self-care time.
Yeah, and someone said earlier that perfectionism in relationships keeps me from feeling close to others and disclosing the things that I am dealing with that would allow them to feel close to me. That is a very important statement. That we had two webinars on relationships earlier on, and yes, perfectionism is definitely interfering with our relationships.
Partner can never meet my standards.
Well, yeah, some other people said relationships are based on your achievements and lead to people and trying and leads to people pleasing. And then if you mess up in the relationship, you feel like the relationships will crumble. So that is another thing that is also part of that. That yes, we value the relationships, but we don't think that they're as strong as they actually are. And if we really messed up, people would not be on our side. Unproductive spiral, negative feelings expand. I have to encourage myself with positive self-talk and keeping myself motivated to just go do it, doing my best, and that's enough. Yeah, and yes, and that is another part. And we had when we did other webinars with Maciek on the subject is that actually this perfectionism also leads to procrastination. We had, and Mosby very often emphasized that we want a guarantee of being perfect before we even start the task, and it is not possible. So we are procrastinating, leaving ourselves very little time, and then we have an excuse if it is not perfect, that, oh, but I didn't have enough time. Yeah.
Perfectionism limits my ability to take risk, and it's disappeared from my screen.
Perfectionism limits my ability to take risks that could lead to personal growth and the new experiences. So I will be reading those things because I have two screens, so it is easier for me, Maciek. Taking care of oneself. My disabled daughter gives up on taking care of herself because it is too hard to do things well. Oh yes, thank you, Margie. Yeah, sometimes if I cannot do something perfectly well, I give up. There's no point of doing. And Maciek also, that is like the person, because of perfection, I may deny myself to do certain things, go for tests, exams, and so on, and then not achieve what I could have achieved. All right. That is great. Thank you very much for your participation. That makes this
Thank you very much.
thing great, and we would like it interactive, and we hope to have some also time at the end to do meditation that or mental practice, mental imagery practice, or mental rehearsal of what we learned. So it will bring this all together in the end.
Okay, but what you wrote shows that perfectionism is okay. The effects of perfectionism is some kind of suffering, some kind of barrier between us and other people. Okay, next slide, please, and we'll. We were talking about parents or other significant persons who are raising the children, who are motivating them to to be good and to be better. And they are not evil people. They really try to do their best for their children. They usually want them to succeed in life, so they don't want to hurt the children, but emotional pain is side effect of of trying to be perfect. And next click, please. Thank you. Usually parents are criticizing or comparing their children to control them. It's easier and takes less time to control someone by making him or her feel inferior than trying to negotiate and trying to motivate someone in a healthy way. And we as adults, usually we treat ourselves similar to the way we were treated by others in our childhood. So usually we incorporate and learn how our significant people, how our parents are treating us, and then we are treating ourselves the similar way. So it turns into unhealthy self-control or self-management system. Next click, please. Next click. Mariusz, can you
Yes.
tell about the difference between self-esteem and self-worth?
Mm-hmm. So here's a very important part, because a lot of people talk about self-esteem, how valuable it is, and so yeah, definitely it is bad. It's better to have self-esteem, which is valuing oneself, and oh yes, I'm really good, I can achieve things. But it is very much in line of positive thinking is not always healthy, because self-esteem is based on my performance. So I'm proving myself, oh, I did good, I did well, I really was able to accomplish that or other thing. And so yes, so in our approach, we are rather looking at accepting ourselves the way we are, instead of trying to prove to ourselves and driving ourselves to perform to that level that we will prove to ourselves that we are worthy. And we will expand on it even further later on. And so that is what we call, if you could show the slide again. So that is what we call, instead of really self-esteem, which is dependent on our performance, we try to use USA, which is unconditional self-acceptance. And as this says, unconditionally. So I know that I am a fallible human being, and I accept myself with all that fallibility, right? So that is a important part. And in a moment, we are going to explain to you that you have already achieved everything that you needed to prove to anyone, that you are absolutely fantastic and really successful, uniquely successful. So let's go to the next slide.
So the thing is to effectively control our behaviors without judging ourselves. And next click, please. Our behaviors are not us. Me as a human being is someone different than my behaviors. I can judge my behaviors, I can modify them, I can appreciate or not appreciate my behaviors, but it's important that our behaviors do not that we are not dependent in judging ourselves on our behaviors.
And that is very profound, because we tend to judge ourselves and other people on their behaviors and the outcomes of their behaviors. But do you want me to go into this example right now, Maciek?
Mm-hmm.
So one important thing is that we very often think of many ways how we can improve ourselves and gain acceptance. But and we judge people because of the, oh, he did that, have you heard of it? You know, all the gossip is about, oh, who did what and what happened. Well, in fact, you see, from our standpoint, and actually it has not just philosophical position, but um, it seems from the biology in the moment that I'm going to explain, just the fact that I exist is good enough. And you see, our behaviors. Sorry. So first, let's start that we are already very successful, right? So, and Maciek, you can correct me at any time. So we started with this fertilized egg cell, right? But before it got fertilized, there were millions of competitors for that egg from my mother, and from our father there's millions of competitors. Those sperm cells were, you know, they were really going fast. So, but you see, it is not only the strongest and the fastest sperm that eventually gets to fertilize the egg. It turns out that the egg cell itself is able to select which one she likes the most. So the courting is happening at that level too, right? So it is not that we are the fastest, but we were also the most convincing and the most appealing to the egg cell. So, and we were the strongest. So we already, and not every egg cell is healthy enough to accept that sperm. So you know, already at the time of our conception, we were extremely successful, right? And now this fertilized egg moves along it moves from the ovary to the uterus, and you see on that path it may get stuck, right? And that is when you may have ectopic pregnancies, and that such pregnancies cannot survive, unfortunately. And then even if it gets to the uterus, most of the fertilized eggs never get implanted, and the zygote never develops any further, right? So, and also those that get implanted, they many because of the defects in them, they cannot survive anyway. So if we survived and we came and we were born, we have already made so many hurdles, you know, that we don't need to prove anything to anyone already, right? That is so important. That, you know, that is still conditional thinking, right? But you see, we want to use everything at our disposal, conditional and unconditional, to really get beyond this inferiority. So whatever I can focus my thinking on, that may get me out of this inferiority thing, or trying to prove someone something about our worth. Remember that you are already extremely successful, and just your existence proves that. You don't need to do anything else.
And you passed the quality control department.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for reading my mind, but just one back. Yes. Oh, here.
Mm-hmm. So when we are coping with feeling of inferiority, and when we are working on unconditional self-acceptance, it's it's jak powiedzieć etap albo faza?
A phase or stage.
It's a stage in this work that you are proving yourself that you are worth the acceptance, both conditional and unconditional, and to mm, to cope with this habit of self-criticism. uh, you are often saying yourself something nice, you are appreciating yourself, but it's only a stage. It's, as Mariusz said, it's conditioned and conditional. And the goal is just to forget about yourself. Just don't think about yourself, just act or plan your actions or uh, think about your actions. And next slide, please. So the goal is just to exist and act, not thinking too much about yourself, but it's it's needed before to appreciate yourself, to find counterbalance for the self-criticism. And if you find balance, you can forget about yourself. And next click. And Mariusz,
Okay, can we stay?
to explain?
Yeah. So let me read it. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. So that is really the best thing that summarizes the healthy, unconditional self-acceptance approach to uh, to uh, to life in general. You see, we always seek fulfillment or seek deep truth or some personal enlightenment outside of ourselves. And that act of seeking denies the fact that the this enlightenment is in us here and now, nowhere else, right? Or that the happiness is in us being who we are and accepting ourselves the way you are. And it is very easy to say, but it is harder to practice. So we want to eventually develop a form of a meditation. And we in most of our webinars, we had a form of meditation that starts with radical, unconditional self-acceptance, as well as unconditional acceptance of the situation and others. And it is not; these are not new thoughts. They were in psychology since Albert Ellis, in philosophy, in Western philosophy at least, since or European-centered philosophy, where since Stoics, but in the global philosophy, I think that was even in Buddhism was very well described too. So when Maciek was talking about forgetting about yourself, is this that we spend so much time trying to prove something to ourselves or to others about ourselves that we stop really living. and many of you already mentioned in the chat how it affected your free time, your relationships, your taking care of yourself, and so yeah, so really just living is part of that. Is the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to be alive, and I didn't need to do any more than that to fulfill my purpose in life.
and we really don't need to achieve anything to be accepted. Those of you who have children, please remember how were you loving your newborns? Did they have any achievements after birth? Love for a newborn child is pure example of unconditional love and acceptance. And
so we want to work on both unconditioned acceptance, but also we won't run away from our conditioned mind. So this is a practical exercise of how to address these things. So,
and the technique that you probably know, those of you who attended the webinars before today's one, is work on changing beliefs, because we can change any belief, including beliefs about ourselves. Usually, when working on changing beliefs, we can create a list of strengths, and on the last slide of this presentation, you'll see 12 questions for creating the list of strengths, but please be aware not to strengthen compensation strategies. Appreciating your strengths is not jak powiedzieć, potwierdzać?
Validate.
Is not to, your strengths do not validate you as a human person, but it's good to know that you have some strengths. Very important topic is coping with so-called failures. Usually, when we do not achieve what we wanted, we are criticizing ourselves, but it's important to just treat this as a feedback for the future, to opportunity to plan what to do the other way, what to learn, what to know. And next topic is about adaptation standards to possibilities. Usually people with perfectionism issues are expecting much more from themselves than from other people. Last week, I had a conversation with my patient. She is also a psychologist, and she was feeling very bad, and she was self-criticizing because of something that she called a mistake in her work. And I told her about one of my mistakes I made once, and she was very supporting to me. She said, "Oh yes, but everyone needs to choose his or her way, so that's okay, it happens." And I asked her, okay, but why are you so kind to me and so harsh to yourself? And how do you differ from the rest of the humanity that you are treating yourself so cruel? So it was a funny moment that when she realized that her standards for herself are much higher than for the rest of humanity. So it's important to treat yourself equal to other people. But if you expect perfection from other people, maybe it's important to uh, be more kind to everyone, including yourself.
So yeah, that is very important. So Carl Simonton used to emphasize that we need to trust with responsibility. And he would quote this Arab saying, trust God, but tie your camel to a tree. But he also said, trust people, but trust people to be people. And that means that people are fallible. And Mitch already earlier quoted Maudsley to remind us about it, that yes, we are fallible, all of us. We make mistakes and other people make mistakes. So so what we call failures, and another of my mentors is David Burns. He says that in therapy, when we apply different techniques, we need to fail as fast as we can. So, or like Edison really did, that he was failing really as fast as he could, but he was not repeating the same example but he was moving to the next, a different way of doing it. So yeah, so just keep doing and keep failing and accept the fact that you are failing and everybody else is failing, but it is not a failure really. It is just not getting the result that you wanted. And you are not God. So there is no objective reason why you should always get what you set out to get, right? So you don't have the prerogative of will, that whatever you will, it's going to manifest itself. No. So we very often put a lot of effort, do the best things, and have the results that are opposite of what we intended. And sometimes we mess up really badly, and our people around us mess up really badly, and that is part of being a human. And here is a comment that they really like your example, Maciek, and some perfectionists are not forgiving of others' errors. They hold themselves and others to the perfection bar. Yes, that is exactly it.
Yeah, exactly.
So accept our humanity and our imperfections, warts and everything, in everyone,
It's
from the get-go.
It's easy to say, but it's a process of training those healthy beliefs and healthy strategies. It's not just, oh, okay, I decide to behave better, or I decide to forgive myself, or I decide to be just good enough, not to be perfect. It needs some time and training.
And you will get those instructions at the end of the workshop.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and and the last thing is paying attention to positive information from other people. As we said before, usually people who feel inferior or who have per perfectionist strategies don't believe people who say something kind to them. So it's worth considering. Maybe people were really truthful. Okay, next slide.
And let me read one comment. Mitch is saying, I think parents sometimes think if their spouse or children are not perfect, that it reflects on them. So they may have much higher expectations and standards from their children, because they may, if they don't perform perfectly, that it's shameful to us, right? So thank you.
Mhm. So the next technique is getting some distance from our thoughts, self-criticizing thoughts. Usually when we are self-criticizing, we use some cognitive distortions. So it makes us feel better to ask ourselves several questions. For example, do I use double standards? As I said, as in the example I said before. Do I do I think in terms all or nothing? All, which means success, or nothing, which means failure. Maybe there's something between 100% success and 99 and less percent failure. Do I condemn myself based on a single event? Do I focus on weakness and dismiss my strengths? Do I blame myself for issues I have no control of? For example, I want to take my family for a walk or for excursion. I dream about perfect day with a perfect weather and perfect pastimes. And we go out and it appears it's a rainy day. And we blame ourselves. Oh gosh, I could read the forecast. I could know it will be raining. I could plan the day the other way, and so on and so on. And it's question worth asking: do I expect perfection from myself? Okay, next slide, please. The next technique is to think about our strengths and weaknesses, but to think in a little different way. For example, I can think myself about one of my weakness, like for example, but knowledge of the spatialized vocabulary in psychology. I can feel quite good that I know so many difficult words, and I consider it my strength, but it can be weakness in some circumstances. For example, when I talk to untrained people who don't know this vocabulary, I could not be understood. So it can be a weakness. Yeah? So the exercise is for you to find one weakness and prove that it can be strength in some circumstances. And if you find this weakness and turn it into the strength, please write it down in the chat and share with us, and we read some of them. Andrzej, was it understood, or should I repeat it
You can reiterate. It's always helpful to rephrase things.
So the exercise. First, find your weakness. Think how this weakness can be your strength and in what circumstances. And write it down in the chat and share with others. Mariusz, can you read them?
Okay, just a second.
I remember someone who cannot sing, and it made
Yeah, that is exactly the first
even
one.
more funny.
That's the first one. I really cannot sing. That makes the birthday songs in our family even more fun. Thank you very much. Not giving up. Getting it done no matter how long. Okay, that is, thank you. Oh, weakness, slow response speed. Strength, time to think deeply before responding. Okay. Weakness for me is not reaching out when I need help. And what would be, but it reflects on your value of being independent. The next one, I put off weeding the garden as a weakness. When I get motivated, I move steadily to make progress, removing the weeds and better weather and seeing the ground without judgment, and joy to see no more weeds. All right. Extremely shy gives me empathy towards some people of my students in the same circumstance. I have a lot of patience and empathy for them. Yes. Yeah. Bad at taking tests, therefore become resourceful to find other paths to what I want. I tend to analyze things that went wrong. If I know what went wrong, it is the first step towards getting it right. I make meals that don't turn out the way I want. Welcome to the club. So I try to make the dish again until I like it. I am slow at getting rid of magazines, push myself till it's done. All right. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for sharing all those.
Thank you. It's quite funny. But it shows that what we consider our strengths or weaknesses, they are not absolute values. It's situational. Sometimes our habit or our the way we behave may be liked by us, but sometimes maybe not be liked. So it's really situational, and thinking about our weaknesses are potential strengths, or what we consider our strengths that it sometimes may be a weakness. It's we train to think in an elastic way, not to be connected to some way of thinking. So next slide, please.
So flexibility is necessary here.
Okay, next technique and next exercise is about dealing with unexpected results of our actions. So it's difficult to do it in person or on the chat. So describe one of your mistakes and uh, write what uh, constructive feedback did you draw from it? So what was the mistake and what you learned uh, making this mistake or after this mistake? And write it down.
Can you maybe help me understand how is it, in what way is it different from the previous exercise?
Okay, the previous exercise was about our something that's it's stable in time. That's about. Mariusz, jak powiedzieć właściwości czy cechy?
Features.
Okay, the previous one was about our features that they are stable, and the next one is about our behaviors that sometimes we achieve what we wanted, sometimes not, and it's about drawing positive feedback from from our actions that we didn't achieve what we wanted.
Yeah, so we usually call it a failure when we achieve something that we don't want. We call it that we failed, but actually we try to emphasize that it's not a failure. It is actually a learning process. So my weakness is to completing my home office cleanup of old paperwork. I was an executive assistant for 35 years, and now I am home and procrastinating. Yeah, sometimes it's much easier to perform at work than it is to perform at home. Yeah. So maybe we'll encourage people to really use this as a practice after the webinar, that they will have someone that they trust, knowing that they are also human, the other person is also human, is by telling them some mistake that you made and how people respond to you. And really, and the good part is that because sometimes when we mess up, very often we are assigning to when we see someone mess up, we very often assign them negative intent, while in fact, most of us, most of the time, try to do decent things. So, and here is another comment. Put off doing homework from webinar to create an online course. It is easy to set it aside because I don't have the time, in quotes. It takes so much time. I'm chunking it into half-hour bits each day to make some progress. So yes, someone meant to be swiftly effective and rushed to deliver something, but misread the recipient's address. So yes, that happens too. So yeah, again, we intended to do the right thing. I baked a family favorite dessert for a birthday, and it didn't turn out. I realized the different oven affected the outcome. So I will bake it again, checking the temperature and time because we enjoy this healthy dessert. Yeah, that is an important thing. When you cook in someone else's kitchen, that may be very different. So I mess up even in our own kitchen. So okay.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. I think it's a better idea to have some time to think about it and do it by yourselves or discuss it with someone you trust. And the last technique I want to share with you is a list of resources. There is 12 questions, and it's it's too much to answer those questions now during the webinar. So I hope we can share this presentation with you. Can we?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
And actually, I will post this particular slide on in our Facebook group. So this slide is going to be there, and actually, it is already there. So,
Mhm.
so we want this to be easily accessible, and we want this for you to practice, because as Maciek emphasized, it is not going to happen just by insight alone. You need to keep doing it, and also be honest with your family about your with people that you trust, with your inferiority or that's, and noticing how wanting to be perfect interferes with your relationships, and also your health, with not taking good care for yourself, not taking time off, uh, uh, not giving yourself a break. So
And we are approaching to the end of presentation. I want to summarize people who think about themselves that they are in any kind worse than other people. uh, Try to cope with this feeling of inferiority uh, by avoiding some challenges or by trying to be perfect. And it's the connection between feeling inferior and perfectionism. Perfectionism is a strategy uh, to avoid the emotional pain of feeling inferior, but you it's inherent in the strategy of perfectionism that you are never perfect enough to be glad, to feel good, to accept yourself or be accepted by others. So the cure for for feeling inferior is not perfectionism. It's unconditional self-acceptance. And Mariusz, please say more about it, or do the mental practice of unconditional self-acceptance.
So we will do that, but I wanted to show one more slide, the last slide, to thank Dominika Marcinkowska for translating the Polish slides into English. So yes, she did excellent job. Can you show that slide? So she is giving a credit. And AJ, you are doing fantastic. So yes, thank you very much, Dominika. The shout out to you. Dominika is Aleksandra's Marcinkowska's daughter, and they live in the UK. But the translation was the American spelling. So thank you, additional paying attention to that. And you see. So I wanted to really, this is Maciek with Carl Simonton long time ago. I think it was 2005 or so.
Yeah, 15 years
and
ago.
yeah, and Maciek is definitely the biggest Simonian therapist in the world. At least nobody ever challenged. I made the claim multiple times, and Carl used to call him Tiny. And they developed really close friendship from the first time they met, and and Maciek is fantastic to hug, but now we need to keep this. This is the same year we had That was the three of us during lectures.
Someone wrote to spell I exist in Polish. In Polish, it's ja istnieję.
Yeah, right. And I responded to that person in a private message. So,
but this person wanted to spell it.
No worries.
Okay.
I spelled it out.
Okay, you spelled it. I said it.
Oh, you wanted to pronounce it. Istnieję. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we have a last poll, right?
Do we want to repeat the first poll?
Yes. And while you are answering the poll, what we are going to do shortly is a mental rehearsal of some of the ideas.
We have a question. Someone asked that is confused about second question. Can you clarify?
In the poll?
Oh, so the poll, I mean, I don't see the question. The question is, so how do you recognize feeling inferiority in yourself? Because practically it is so common that everybody has some, but to the point that it interferes with the quality of your life, or you feel bad more than you would like to. All right.
Hey.
Can you see the results? So we see that there is more people recognizing that they have perfectionist issues, and fewer people saying no, that they are not perfectionists. So there is some insight going, and very good. So, and I'm glad that that people are not experiencing feelings of inferiority more frequent than they like, but there may be benefits of feeling inferior. So thank you very much. So I would invite you to just rest for a few moments and drop into our space of unconditioned awareness. Just resting. And resting in the present moment, and really whatever you are doing right now is perfect. See, perfect means that it cannot be better, right? You're as perfect as you can be, and so with all your imperfectness, that's fine. So recognizing that for this moment, right now, there's nothing else that you need to know, or nothing else that you need to understand more than you do. That for this moment, you have everything. That in this moment, you can suspend all the judgments, particularly the judgments about yourself and judgments about others. And realize that my value as a human being cannot be changed, cannot be improved or decreased. The same way as nothing can be added to this moment, This moment is perfect the way it is. Nothing can be taken away from this moment. So you can unconditionally accept this moment and whatever is arising in this moment. Even freeing ourselves from our habitual I like it, I don't like it. Just recognizing things the way they are. The same way approaching myself. My achievements, my behavior cannot change the value of me as a human being. It may change the value of my bank account, may change how other people think about me, but we all intrinsically have the same value, just by the fact of existence. So the same way as healthy parents love a healthy newborn, the kid does not have to achieve anything, just exists. And we all deserve the same type of love. And we can give the same love to others, unconditionally. They don't need to prove anything to us. We don't need to prove anything to others. Radical, unconditional self and others' acceptance. And also radical, unconditional acceptance of what is now, of your life circumstances. However challenging they may be, this moment is not that bad. Actually, you can rest in this moment without the needing to change anything. And remember the wise words of Alan Watts. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. So now, very gently and comfortably, return to your usual state of consciousness. Become more aware of the lights, the sounds, and the presence of other people. And as soon as you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes. So, thank you very much. Oh, we have a doggy. Thank you, Susan. So we will. So feel free to unmute yourself if you want to talk to us, and we will hang back for another 10
But
to 15 minutes.
I also want to thank you all for your attention. Thank you for the invitation, and now I feel grateful for the opportunity to share my knowledge and experience with you in not mother tongue, in English. So thank you, really thank you.
It was
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you all for making it happen.
Thank you very much for your kind comments. We are happy that it happened. Thank you, Maciek, that you agreed. And can you imagine I have to speak this language every day?
We're all
Like
getting
most,
better every day.
yeah. Thank you very much. This is, but we don't have to get better every day. That is another part. We cannot get any better than we are. Our language
Well,
skills may improve.
I think it's a matter of getting used to be imperfect, not to getting more and more perfect.
Good.
Yeah. So screwing up in public is a great thing to do.
Fortunately, Maciek didn't screw up. It was great. Thank you.
It's very well done.
You liar.
So there was something about not accepting appraisals. So
Okay, so so thank you, Maciek. That was, I mean, I always enjoy working with Maciek, and that is such a joy. And then now you understand why. So, any questions, comments? Someone says. Someone says, thank you for the information, and the pace made it a very calm and beneficial experience to me. So thanks for setting these up, sharing your knowledge and care for others. Your reminder about I exist as a principle is very appreciated. Thank you.
Good. Right.
Yes. Mary? Oh, you know what, Mary? You seem to be unmuted, but I cannot hear you. But maybe plug in your headphones deeper in your laptop. Maybe that is.
Unplug and plug.
Unplug and plug. Sometimes it works. Still, sorry. You can still type.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we can hear someone.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. We hear someone being on the call, but not with us. Okay.
From outer space.
All right. Okay, so once again, we thank you. We plan to do two more.
Right now. Okay.
We plan to do two more of these webinars, which we'll be dialing in on belief work and really doing very specific ideas on addressing beliefs that are related to, and we started that when we talked about ABCDs of emotions and 5 rules for healthy thinking and so on. So it is not like we want to eliminate difficult emotions, we want to learn from them. So whenever you have a difficult emotion between now and next time, please start writing down if you are in that emotion, that start writing down what's on your mind, what thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes you have. You can use the handouts from our webinar on healthy semantics. AJ brought all the handouts from all the materials from all the webinars in one document, so that is very helpful, and I will post it in our website too.
We always share this folder with every follow-up email after every webinar. So this is
all right.
All materials are in this
in one space. So you will receive them in your emails. Of course, if you chose the option, yes, I want to receive emails. If you chose the option, you don't want to receive emails, don't be surprised that you don't get them. It is nothing about you. It is about your choices. And we are not judging your choices or you for taking those choices, right? I love the imperfectionism of these webinars. You are just the way you are, and that's good. So yes, we are not trying to be someone else, because everyone else is already taken. And it is let me just say, for me, it is hard enough to try to be myself. Trying to be someone else is the task not for this lifetime. I'm just settling how I can manage this. Yeah. All right. So, so we will be really trying to, and also for those of you who have already done some belief work or rational self-analysis, we will circulate the forms and the healthy semantics, how to look at the unhealthy beliefs. So the next two webinars are going to be helping to conclude these webinars with very practical skills, and whatever insights you have, practice them in your imagination at least 3 times a day, because that is, and also whenever the problem arises, sorry, this was my mic that fell off. And whenever the problem arises, also look at the beliefs that drive that problem, and work on resolving them. So remember, our difficult emotions like inferiority and so on have a lot of benefits, and they reflect on our values of not trying to be superior from others. But at the same time, they are often a drag for our performance and the quality of life. So thanks again to everyone. And we will be seeing you next week, hopefully, and have a great long weekend in the United States, and have a great weekend wherever you are. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.